Well, it's really great to hear from everyone because teachers and volunteers, tutors, we don't really have a lot of interactions together. So I had no idea, Kate, that you were an aide for another teacher. So, maybe we'll have aides in my class at some point. My name's Chris. Last name's Zakorchemny, in case you're wondering how to say that. I've been at DCLC as an ESL instructor for a little bit more than 3. And before that, I'm a certified teacher. So I've taught ESL in high school. I've also taught English literature at high school in Philadelphia. I have a master's in TESOL from Penn State. I've been using Google Classroom for a variety of classes, ranging from 4 students to 35, from public school to what we do now, for maybe 6 years. And I'm going to get into some of the reasons why we might want to use Google Classroom today. I'm hoping that today is the overview of the basics, so we can just figure out, at the very least, do we want to use it or not? Because for some people, it might be great help, and for other people, it might be more trouble than it's worth. Okay, so yeah, our goal today is to learn about the features of Google Classroom. And the way we're going to do that, here's our plan. This is kind of how I usually run my classroom. When I'm teaching online, I make sure everybody knows what's the plan. So we're going to see what is Google Classroom and why use it. We're going to have some interaction today. I'm a little scared based on what some people might not be comfortable with technology. Other people might be ready to jump in. But based on your comfort level, you can be as interactive today as you want. But I often feel like the best way to learn is to get your hands on it, or at least try. So I'm going to invite you to a Google Classroom I made for us, for the tutors. And I'll ask you to try to participate. So we'll try to do some of the things that you might ask students to do. And at the end, I will give us a little bit of information on how to make your own Google Classroom. I'm not going to ask you to do that today, but with this being recorded, it can be something that you come back to and explore on your own time. So I wanted to just give you the steps, the first initial steps to get into Google Classroom. So I'll be talking a good bit, but also I want to make today interactive. So here's our first bit of interaction, and we can all just talk together. So let's say that you're tutoring a student, doesn't matter what context it is. Maybe this is before the pandemic. What would you recommend a student do to keep their worksheets and readings organized? And this is open to anyone.
Set up a folder.
And you would use a folder.
I would.
I would also suggest getting a loose, a spiral notebook, so that they can keep track of, then the papers aren't flying around when they're taking notes.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else want to jump in? Those are mostly the answers I was expecting. Maybe some people would say a binder. But even with one folder, sometimes there's just craziness, right?
Yes.
If you accumulate a lot over time.
Yes.
The other question I wanted to prompt you with is, how do you stay in touch with your students outside of class? And I'm thinking about like right now, when that's not as straightforward.
Well, I text her or call my student, sometimes email. So that's what I do.
Okay. Does anyone do anything differently other than text, email, or call?
No.
No.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was thinking of a scenario like if you're not feeling well, or maybe your student's not feeling well and you need to give your student homework, maybe you would text your student, maybe you would call them, but it'd be pretty tough to actually give them something, right? And I want to say, just to put this in perspective, that Google Classroom can do both of the things we were just talking about. So this is like the definition of what it can do. It's a place to keep materials that your students need, and it's a place where you can communicate with them. So I don't know your level of comfort with technology, but a lot of the times when, as a teacher, when someone comes to me with a new app or a new website we can use, it just feels like I got to add this thing to what I'm already doing. But once we get comfortable with it, it does become a place to consolidate everything we need to do with a student. So it's a place where you keep your readings, maybe you have some writing that you want to keep track of from your student, but it's also a place where you can get in touch with your students. So on a basic level, this is what Google Classroom can do. And we'll see what it can do too. We're not just going to read here, we're going to see it. And just to add some context, all of our full-time and part-time instructors use Google Classroom, ABE, GED, ESL. So it's not really limited to one level of learner. Even our ESL beginner classes use it. And as I said, I'd been using it for maybe 6 years. And at the beginning of the pandemic, when everything shut down, we were not having class in our building or at Upper Darby. And, I think maybe we had started to introduce Zoom, but we did need to have a conversation. And I was the person who put the idea out there that maybe we can try to use Google Classroom. And if teachers had questions, I was the person, along with, I think, one other, that was teaching people how to use it. So we started using it because once you get comfortable with Google Classroom, it does feel like you're stepping into a space to learn. It cuts out outside noise. And if you're only having class on Zoom, there's a decent chance that the worksheets you use, the readings that you go over, maybe your students have a workbook, but there's a decent chance that what you learn can just fly out the window and it's gone and your students can't get access to it. So we pretty quickly made the decision that we needed a central place to put our work and to communicate with students, because we were not going into the building and we had minimal contact with our students. And also, it's just a lot of work. If you have more than one person that you're teaching, to text each person or to call each person. So this way, if I need to message my students, I just do one message and it's sent to everyone, just like they're in my classroom, just like in that picture. I feel like I'm talking a lot. I want to stop for a second. Does this explanation of what, in theory, Google Classroom can be, does that seem to make sense so far?
Yes, I think so.
It feels to me, this is Anne, it feels to me like it's from when I can see the value of it when you are with teaching more than one student at it, but I'm not sure how it's really different for me when I email, text, or phone.
Well, the thing I was thinking, excuse me, is I do that too. I email pictures of pages of homework and things like that.
Yeah.
But in the Google Classroom, it will all be there in one place and I don't have to go back looking through my email for it. Maybe that would be helpful. But I also had a question about Google Classroom are you talking about also Google Meet? I mean, is there Google Meeting? Chris, because Google Classroom doesn't have the interactive thing. That's Zoom, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And
So the live classroom will be on Zoom.
yeah, because I think one of the other people, this is another question. Sorry, I'll ask it later. You can talk to Ann about her question.
No, I
Okay.
appreciate that this is more interactive, and actually what you're both bringing up, I think will help solidify the use, help us understand the use of Google Classroom. So like what Kate said, if you text your student a picture of a worksheet, I don't know how many text messages my student gets. Like how easy would it for that to be lost in the shuffle? Some of my students have like 10 different email accounts and they don't know which one they signed up for with DCLC when they registered. So if I said, I just emailed you some homework, did you receive it? There's a good chance they say, I don't know. So Google Classroom would be different than emailing or texting because there's a more likely of a chance that it won't get lost and it won't get displaced.
Well, you
So-
always know the location to go to if you need to find it, I guess.
Mhm.
But I also am, I wonder how students manage when they're doing this on their phone.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that because that is a thing that you need to figure out is access to technology on your end and with your student. What do
Oh,
they have access to?
Oh, excuse me. So
Mhm.
what Kate said about, you said about using Zoom and Google Classroom, now I'm really confused. I thought you used one or the other. I
Here we
don't,
go. I'll try to clarify that.
yeah.
So my live class happens on Zoom. That's the place that I have like 15 students coming in at once and teaching an active lesson. Google Classroom is much more passive. It's a place that you can visit any time of the day. I'm not teaching in there.
Okay.
It might make more sense when we look at it. So
Okay,
we,
we do the demonstration. Right.
mhm.
Okay,
The only reason I mentioned that is because someone else mentioned that, like Zoom now cuts me off.
That's right. After
And
40 minutes, right?
yeah, so then I have to send another link
Or,
in the middle of the class or in the middle of the tutoring session because I haven't joined Zoom or paid for it.
yeah. I usually
Well,
just go off. I see the notice that says you have 7 minutes left or you have 3 minutes left. And then I leave the meeting and I tell my student we'll come back on in a second. So that's what I've been doing, just since about a month ago.
okay.
But
Oh, you
Well,
can just leave and come back?
yeah, I Googled it because I was so frustrated. I thought, why does this keep happening? And so it said not to end the meeting, just to leave the meeting and then just come right back. So that's what we do every week since about, I don't know, a month ago or so, a month and a half ago, I think.
Because
Yeah.
you're the host or whatever. You're the host of the meeting.
Yeah, that's what it said to do on Google because I didn't know what to
Good to
do.
know.
No, anyway, something.
yeah, so
Okay.
I think once we actually see the features, you'll see how it's different than Zoom. So
Okay.
maybe I can, that's coming up pretty soon. Yeah. Let me finish this piece because of why we use Google Classroom. The nice thing is that it's free, but it can get a little murky because you must have a Google account. So later today, I'm gonna try to invite some of you, but you will not be able to join if you only have like a Yahoo email or Comcast email. If anything, if your primary email or your only email is not Google, you would have to register for a Google account. And that can be a headache if student doesn't have one and they don't know how to make one. I've had to do it for a student in the past. So this is kind of the first step to getting into Google Classroom. You must have a Google account.
So if you have Gmail, do you I mean, I have a Google account, but that means,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah, if you use Gmail, then you have a Google account.
okay, thank you.
And so this is like what you're talking about. Doesn't matter if we're using a computer or a mobile device. Yes, it looks different. Not that much different, but it does look different. And it's our responsibility as instructors. You know, if you tell a student, go to Google Classroom, you know, write a response to the question I put there. And if they tell you, I don't know where to find it because maybe they're just using a smartphone, you should have a little bit of knowledge of where to find it. So as an instructor, I do have Google Classroom on my computer and on my phone. What are you using today? I'm asking everyone here. How many people are using a computer? How many people are using a mobile
Computer.
device?
Computer.
Computer.
Okay. Did I hear from Joe?
Yeah, computer.
Computer. I feel like this is usually the way it goes. The teachers have the computers and the students have the mobile devices. I think I saw a study that most adults, like overwhelmingly, have their way of accessing the internet is a mobile device. It's usually their phone. So you can kind of expect that will probably be the way you interact with your student. If you're teaching online, they're probably going to do it through a phone. So if they tell you, I can't find the homework, it might be good, you know, if this is something that might interest you, it might be good to also have some knowledge of how it looks on a phone or a tablet. Yeah, so since we're talking about technology, I thought this would be a good question to just get in the headspace of considering. So my question is, how might a student's access or comfort with technology change the way you teach? But I could even replace this word student with teacher. How might a teacher's access or comfort with technology change the way you teach? Because I certainly have some students that they just know how to show up to a meeting. Like I'm not expecting them to do a whole lot of interaction. Is that how it goes for you right now? Do you say some students are capable of doing such and such?
I mean, my student shows up and we talk and look at articles together. I don't know what else she's able to do. I imagine that she'll be able to learn.
Are you cautious with them to like introduce something new with technology?
I'm cautious because of my lack of knowledge. I've been a teacher. I was a teacher for many years, but I never had a smart board in my classroom or any kind of technology. And so this is the technology part of teaching is new to me. So I'm the one that's nervous about presenting because I don't know.
That's fair.
So
And yeah, that can be a headache when you're not totally comfortable with it yourself.
okay, yes.
Well, I was tutoring a GED student and of course the GED you have to take on the computer. So there's that whole layer of learning how to use the computer in order to take the test. That's one aspect. But then I realized that if my student, when I was doing Zoom, if she's looking at it on the phone, I have to make sure that the thing I put on there, I would use whiteboard or I would use articles or whatever and show the screen. But if she's looking at it on the phone, she can't, it's so small.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I have to be aware of how to magnify the image enough and be aware of what she can actually see.
Exactly.
And I don't know how that works with Google Classroom. If they're looking it on the phone, it's the same issue of magnifying the document or whatever
Mhm.
so so the student can see it.
Yeah, I will show you what it looks like both on a computer and on a phone.
Okay, good.
But the fact that you're considering that means that you're already making good choices when it comes to remote teaching. That, you know, some things might work for some students, and other times we just might want to make it as simple as possible.
Right.
Joe or Ann, do you have any thoughts about using or not using technology when it comes to the way you teach?
Well, I'm comfortable now with Zoom, and I use the chat on Zoom a lot if I need to spell something or if I need, so I'm comfortable with that, and I think my student and I are on the same level with that. So finally.
That's great.
And we are just in person at the
Mhm.
library with teaching students.
Okay. So you're mostly
So
using
we haven't even
workbooks
gotten
and-
this far.
Okay. Well, just like anything, you have, especially as a tutor, you have a great advantage of knowing your student and teaching them in the way that best works for them. So I think it's great that you at least have the option to add to your tool belt when it comes to Google Classroom. And, you know, I'm just saying, like, you can use it or maybe not. But let me show you, you know, because we're talking about a computer or a tablet, what the difference is. So I'll show you some of the main features. On the left side, this is what Google Classroom looks like on the computer. And on the right side, that's how it looks on the phone. So you can still see the same message here. This was my
Oh.
conversation club. I said, hi, everyone, please join us. And there's my Zoom link. So that's a message that went out to all of my students in this one class. And it's the same message over here. You can imagine that, you know, on the phone, it's just a little bit more narrow and consolidated. And that's like what Kate was saying. You know, when we try to share something on a phone, it's not always the easiest to read. But the information on Google Classroom is the same. But I'm going to go over some of the features, the main features here. Okay. So the first place that you interact with students is called the stream. So the stream is up here. There's like 4 different tabs: stream, classwork, people, grades. I didn't talk about grades because I never use that. I don't keep you know, points for my students. But a stream is most often the place where I'm talking with students. And this is kind of like Facebook. That's the way I describe it. So it's not something that's happening live. It's something that people can check in on their own time. And this message in particular was an announcement that I was starting Conversation Club, and the Zoom link was there. So nothing actually happens here, but it's just where I'm giving people messages. So when I send this message one time, it's automatically sent to all of my students in the class. So it's a place to communicate. You can write messages and you can reply with comments here. That's why I say it's like Facebook, because if you see down here, it says add class comment.
Mhm.
So if you write a question, you give a student a writing prompt, that's where they can reply on the stream page. So this is a place where I notify students that the class is starting. It's also where, like, if I'm not feeling well or I need to change something in regards to the class, I would announce it in here. So that's the first feature of Google Classroom, the stream. The second one is classwork. So that's the second tab at the top. And that's where you post your assignments. So if you have a reading and it's on your computer, you want to upload it so students can read it for homework, it goes into the classwork section. And third, people. I don't think students can see this. This is a teacher view. People is where you invite and remove students from your class.
Oh,
Just-
can I ask a question for a second?
Mhm.
You know, I don't even know how do you upload an assignment? Like, let's say we're doing a reading that's really interesting and I wanted her to look at it again. This is very basic. How do I upload that onto Google Classroom from like News for You or News ELA?
So,
Mhm.
Yeah, I know it's very basic, but how I don't know how to do that.
It is basic and also it's not.
Okay.
I can show, I wrote that down so I can come back to it.
Okay, that's fine.
I might touch on that later, but also I previously, maybe more than a year ago, I made a video of how to do that. And
Okay.
I included that for you if you want to try that after class.
Sure, okay.
But the simplest answer is often to save the article that you
Mhm.
want, save it
Okay.
to your computer and then upload it.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'll show you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so again, we're looking at the three main features: stream, classwork, and people. I want to show you how that looks on the mobile device side. Okay, so the stream, you can see it's now at the bottom down here. It's not at the top of the page, but it's still there. And then classwork is to the right of that, and people is over here. So you can imagine, you know, what I was saying earlier. If you tell your student, I gave you some homework in your classwork section, and let's say you've never downloaded the app for Google Classroom, and you tell them it's look at the top of your page, it's in the middle. It wouldn't be for the mobile device. So, you know, in the mobile device, it's at the bottom in the middle. So as an instructor online, I'm sure you all have the experience. It can be really frustrating when you literally cannot see what they're looking at. I'm sure you've had that, like, kind of language barrier where you're trying to tell them to look at something on their device and you can't see it, and it feels really helpless. So that's why I suggest that if you're going to give someone, and you know, like, your student has a mobile device, you should try it on your own, on a phone or a tablet also. Okay, so those are the three main features: the stream, the classwork, and the people. tabs. All right, so here we go. The best way to learn is to see it and do it. So I'm going to invite you to a class that I made. But I do need some input from you. So if you can, I'm going to write in the chat in Zoom. If you could just give me your email, and then I'll share my screen. I'll show you how I invite people to Google Classroom.
What if you don't have a Google account? I really don't have a Google account, so what?
If you don't want to go through all the hoops of getting a Google
Right.
account right now, you can just watch what we do.
Okay.
Okay, good. I have Kate's, I have Jen's. So I'll start. Okay, so here's my class. Here's actually all of the classes that I have. But here's yours, your special class for today. So I'm going to enter that. And if you remember, if I want to invite people to the class, I need to click on people. And it's good that this is recorded because sometimes it's not so obvious where you need to put in information. But this is where you can invite students, this little person icon with a plus button. And it will give you some options. You can either just copy the link if you want to email it to them, or I can copy and paste. I have 2 emails here. So it has to be a Google account. Sorry for giving away your Gmails, but this is just for us. So after I've copied these in, I click invite. And I have to say that that's not always 100% successful. If you invite them, some students may come to you and say, I need a class code. So I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, but this part does sometimes get a little confusing. So if they ask you for a class code, it is right here on the stream page. So if they ask you for a class code, you would have to copy this and give it to them. So I'm going to give us a second for Kate and Jen. If you can see if you can join the Google Classroom. So I'll give us a second. And if you have any issues, or if you're in, we should be able to see that. If I go to the People tab, I can see that Jen and Kate have not joined yet because it says they're invited. But once they have accepted, these emails will not be grayed out. They'll look like this. They'll be more bold.
So I haven't added my name to this, but I do have a Gmail account, which I hardly ever use. So should I send that to you now then?
Yeah, if you would like to get your hands on Google Classroom today and try it for yourself, you could tell it to me now or put it in the
Okay.
Zoom chat.
All right, let me see if I remember. Okay.
Chris, I joined. I don't know what happened.
Let's see. Oh, you both joined. I just needed to refresh.
Okay, fine.
So you're both in. Great. I'll give Suzanne a second.
All right, I think that's what it is.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
This
Uh,
is the same thing we go through with our students. Sometimes
Okay.
like people have an ancient Gmail account and we'll try it.
I usually use
See what
Hotmail.
happens.
I can't put that in now, right?
No. If
Okay,
you, so just for your information, if I put in a Hotmail or Yahoo or anything not Gmail, it would send an email to that person and tell them, you've been invited, but you need a Google account.
Mhm.
Okay, so Suzanne, I invited you. You'll have to check that, see if you can get into that Gmail account to accept the invitation. Okay, so for the people that are in, I'm going to ask you to try to do something. So first, we'll just take this one step at a time. First, see if you can go to the stream and post a class comment under my message in the stream. So you should be able to look at the stream, and I wrote a message. It says, "Good morning, everyone. Please tell me your name and how you got involved with DCLC." You can write your answer below. So if you have a computer, remember, we just have a section down here. It says add a class comment. So just like if you wanted to write a comment on Facebook, it works the same way here. And Jen already got on and posted her comment. So I'll give us a minute or so to see if we can navigate to the stream and post a comment. Okay, it looks like I have, okay, Suzanne, you're still working on your email, but Kate and Jen were able to post their comments. And it's kind of interesting that it wanted to hide some comments. I needed to click on this to be able to see both. But this is one function you could use on Google Classroom. So even if you can imagine using this in your own instruction, I might have a reading for someone and multiple questions. I could add the questions in here, right? And I think, Suzanne, you're talking about how do I give a student a reading? There's this upload button. This is often the easiest way to give some work to someone. So actually, you don't even need to take Google Classroom further than the stream page after a student has joined. If I wanted to find my reading, this is on my computer. And upload it with some questions. I just need to post it. So on its most basic level, that's how this could work. And sometimes I ask the students to write their answers as a comment, but that will be available for everyone to see. Other times I just post the questions and I say, prepare your answers for the next time we meet. And the way they can see the story is I often just tell students, click on the picture. And you can see I downloaded this from Newsela. I know some of you use Newsela. It can get a little tricky when you don't download it and you just try to give them a link. Sometimes students get lost that way. So I often just download it and upload it. Let me stop here. Does this feel manageable so far? Like if you were to just use Google Classroom on the stream.
I think that seems doable.
Okay.
I don't know about others. If your class isn't too big, I guess. I don't know.
Mhm. Well, I'm hearing some silence. So that also means maybe no, it might not be doable.
I don't know. I have to try it. I have to get my, I just have to try it.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, do I want to ask Joe and Ann? Because there's no answer from
Well,
them.
I'm really just listening. I don't have a Google account. I'm not, don't think I'm gonna do that. Not right
Okay.
now.
Well, like I said, for the benefit of everyone, this is being recorded.
Yeah,
So
right.
I know I'm just moving along, but if you need, the benefit is you can watch the video later and stop it. Try that bit on your own, continue the video and stop it. So hopefully this is step by step enough that right now we should feel like we know how to get onto the stream, write a comment, and then also the announcement here to maybe have some questions and upload something. So as a first step, the stream is a great place to start. If you get comfortable with that, you now have the ability to communicate with your students or just one student. And you can also upload some work for them. So even for me, I have been teaching in person. We had a situation where we needed to go remote again. If that ever happens with you, this might be a good option for you. If that's going to be 1 week away from the class or 2 weeks away from the class, again, this is a way where things will not get lost in the shuffle. And on Zoom, oftentimes, I go to my Google Classroom to kind of model it for my students. I ask them, did you see my homework on Google Classroom? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And I'll show them exactly where I put it. And I'll open it here. And we just do this reading. We do, I might ask one student to read one paragraph. We do it right on the screen together with a screen share. So that way, with multiple sessions with the students, they'll know where to find things on Google Classroom.
Chris,
Okay.
I gotta tell you, I am still totally overwhelmed, but I
That's
will
okay.
try it because I've got to learn it. It's here,
Yeah, and
and
that's
this is a
something
big help.
that Jen says is that remote learning is not going away.
Right.
Right.
And so my ultimate goal for you is hopefully, if you need to go totally remote, you remember that we have this video and hopefully you can take it step by step and just make it work for you. You don't need to use all the features,
Right.
but
Right.
even
Well, it's been
for
a big help.
myself, I don't use everything here because I know some of my students can only do so much.
Mhm.
On the screen share seems to be different on Google Meet than on Zoom. when
Yeah, I don't use Google Meet. I know some people talked about that.
Oh, okay. I thought that was something we were supposed to try too.
I didn't prepare that.
Okay. Okay, no, it's okay. I was just the question I have because I was confused.
Okay. I imagine that it would mostly show the same information.
Okay,
You know, if it's just a mirror of what you're seeing on your computer.
okay.
Okay. So if we want to, it might be good to just see, I think the next step is classwork. So it will pretty much do the same thing that I just did, but classwork looks a little bit different. So on a computer, you can see there's different tabs. I'm going to click on classwork. Okay, and I have some drafts here. This is not anything I've posted yet. So I'm going to show you how do you upload or how do you create an assignment. So I'll start with the homework sample. Let me take one step back. If I want to make a new assignment, I click on this create button and it will give you some different options. What I usually do is an assignment, but sometimes I'll do a question if it's just like if I want to give a student a writing prompt and I only want them to write an answer, I do question. But usually my homework is maybe 4 written questions and an attached reading. And I do that in assignment. So if I clicked assignment, it would open this. It would look like this. You can see up here, we're looking at an assignment. So this is usually what my homework looks like. I have a title that students can reference. I might put something like Tuesday homework just to help students keep track. And then in the instructions, this is where I can put my questions. So if I need to remove technology, like if I don't want them, if I know this is going to be hard for them to interact with, I'll just tell them, be prepared to have the answers to these questions. And there's still the same upload button here for my reading. So you just click. I recommend upload. I think that's just the easiest way out of all the options here. So I've already downloaded this from Newsela. I just click the upload file button and browse. And I just choose the right one and click open. The only other thing I might change in here, I never have points. I don't need it. But the only other thing that kind of helps students is creating a due date. Because actually when I click assign, it's going to send an email to you that you have new homework. Isn't that fun as a teacher? But also when I create a due date, like if I want this to be due on Tuesday, June 14th, I click that date. And if they haven't finished the homework, it's going to send them an email that you have some homework due tomorrow. So I know some students never check their email, but if they did, they would stay on top of their homework. So that's basically all that I do in here. I create a title, I give them some instructions, and I attach the reading. I create a due date, and then I'm ready to assign it. So I just click that. Yeah, it says Students will see the assignment in their streams immediately. So Jen and Kate, you probably just got an email that I posted a new assignment for them, for you. So students can find it in here, but it also goes straight to the stream, just like on Facebook when somebody shares a news story and it pops up at the top of the page. That's what happens here. When I share something new, it goes straight to the top. So it's a timeline with the most recent things at the top. And just so you can see, this is how it looks for the students. We've got the title up top. The instructions are pretty clear right down here. And then we click on the picture to see the story. All right. So I was gonna maybe ask you to write an answer, but I feel like that's way too much work to actually open the article and answer a question. But I often just, like I said, ask students to write the answer down here. So maybe they just write 1 and the answer, 2 and the answer. But just if I have like a really big class and I'm not sure of the technology comfort level, I'll just ask them, maybe write your answer on paper and bring that to the next class. That's like the most equitable way to do things. We have different technology comfort levels. Okay, one more thing here. I'm going to post the other assignment I had saved in here. So I should talk about that. If I made a assignment, but I'm not ready to post it, you can always click on this arrow and save it as a draft. That's what I did earlier. And it'll be grayed out. A posted assignment is blue. This one's grayed out, but I'm ready to post this one. So I open it up. And this is a question that some people had. How do you turn, or this is totally the next step, and it can be confusing, but this is something that one of our other teachers was wondering. So I made 2 YouTube videos on how to do it on the computer and how to turn in assignments with your phone. So if you're curious about that after class, I'm going to keep this tutor class open, and these 2 videos will be available to you. So here's a perfect example of our session's done, but if you want more instruction, if you want more homework, you can visit this later. And you can see it's at the top of the stream. I posted this more recently than the homework.
Thank you for this, Chris. Thank you. I'm going to have to sign off. I have an 11:30 and I have to prepare.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for
Okay.
coming in.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
My
This is
question is
about where I wanted to stop and see what you had for questions.
well, one question I would have, would you leave, if you leave this site up, this tutor class, then we could we could have conversation with different tutors or with you about questions we had, or should we just email you, or what?
You just gave me I imagined a whole world where tutors had their own Google Classroom. You could talk to each other on here. It could be your own social space if you wanted it to. But Yeah, of course, you could write a message here. I would see it because I'm the teacher. I get an email every time someone completes their homework or writes a post, writes a comment on here. But I did want to also give you my email. Okay, so I'll make that bigger for you. It's czakorchemny@delcoliteracy.org.
I guess I was just thinking of like tips and tricks for people tutors using this, like those videos you had about how to upload a document or whatever,
Mhm.
just little things like that.
Yeah, I have just one more thing I wanted to go over, but I wanted to give you my email right now. So the only other thing I had planned today was to just give you some initial steps on how to set up a Google Classroom on your own.
Good.
So
Good.
if you want to get your hands dirty and try it on your own, that's the best way to learn. So I have two pictures here. Again, one is for the computer and one is on your phone. So this way is on the computer. That's kind of how it looks on your end. If you go to Google or classroom.google.com, or if you just go to any search and type in Google Classroom, that's the first step. And then it will ask you to log in. If you don't have a Google account, that's also the place where it might ask you, do you want to register and make an account? But after you log in, or after you've created an account, you need to find this plus button. So on the computer, it's up here, and on the phone, it's at the bottom. So it's good for you to be able to see that. Some people, like I've told instructors, look for the plus button. It's not very obvious. So on the computer, it's at the top right of the screen, kind of near your over here, it's my face, but it would be your account and then have some dots here. And on the phone, the first step would be to find the app Google Classroom. And you have to download it. But once you get in, it will ask you to log in, and you will have to look for this plus button. And then you could be on your way. So I did want to give you my email in case you have any hiccups. Also, if you want to email me and you think, I think we can go a step further, we could have an additional session. So there's two options. I could just troubleshoot with you, or we could try to do something together if more than one person is interested in taking the next step. But I wanted to stop here. In traditional teacher fashion, I wanted to hear, what do you think you would take away as a success, and what also feels like it could be a challenge for me? Because this is good for me to hear if we want to continue having a conversation about Google Classroom, or we might want to have an additional session. So think about one success and maybe one challenge for yourself when it comes to using this.
Well, I think this is helpful. Like I've been a student as an aide in the classroom, but I can see the value of having this, even with a one-on-one student, as a place to consolidate information and assignments. So I think it could be helpful that way. because I have all pieces of paper everywhere, you know,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. Um,
Is there anything that feels like it's still out of reach or still a challenge for you?
well, I have to admit that when I was working, I used Blackboard and other class management things. So this is fairly familiar to me.
Good. Yeah.
But
That-
I think it's challenging to picture what the student is seeing. And that would be, I think if I download the app, that would help.
I like that idea. I think that will inform your instruction if you try it on your own with your phone. It's a good idea. Anyone else want to chime in with a success or a challenge?
The whole thing's a challenge to me, but I'm going to work on it. This is the only Zoom class I've even been in, the three of these.
Well, I think it's great
And
that
I only
you're,
went in so that I could learn something because I just have a very strong feeling it's going to be more and more acceptable throughout the country.
Mhm. Well,
And
I
I better
appreciate
learn
that
or I'm
you're,
going to be lost.
I appreciate that you're just willing to throw yourself into it. I think just showing up today, at least you're aware of what it could do.
Yep.
Thanks, Joe.
I thank you, sir.
All right, last chance. Any successes or challenges or obstacles? Well, like I said, if we have any more questions, I am available through email. And I'll do my best to get back to you. If we have an ongoing interest about this, this is something that we can revisit or continue to build on.
Well, Chris, I do have one question about setting up the, I have to create another account to make Google Classroom, or if I download the app, I just have it, or?
I actually use my personal email.
Yeah.
Maybe people don't want to do that, you know, because that means that students can email you on your personal account. But I use my personal account, and that's what I use to sign on the computer, and I use the same personal email on my phone.
So it doesn't, if you have a Gmail account, it means you don't really have to do anything else to sign up.
You shouldn't need another new account. You can just use the same old Gmail.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, if there's no more questions, I think we can stop the recording.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank
That
you so
sounds
much.
great, Chris.
Thank you.
I'm really glad that you all showed up. Thanks for coming.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
for an excellent presentation, Chris. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Of course.